And first up, cutting across to breaking news coming in, Maldives is forced to act after facing backlash and cancellations. In breaking news coming in, we are learning that Maldivian envoy Ibrahim Shaheeb has arrived at MEA. The visit comes after there was a massive furor after Maldivian ministers who are now suspended used derogatory remarks against Prime Minister Modi. The Maldivian government that had distanced itself from the remarks made by their ministers and the insults hurled against Prime Minister Modi, saying that they come in independent capacity. However, those ministers who were suspended after furor against the Maldivian ministers who used derogatory remarks against Prime Minister Modi. In the very latest, as you see, Maldivian envoy Ibrahim Shaheeb has arrived at the Ministry of External Affairs that took up this matter very, very strongly with the Maldivian government. MEA has issued a strong démarche to the Maldivian envoy. Let me straight away bring in Senior Executive Editor Abhishek Kapoor to get more details on the same. Over to you, Abhishek.
Well, yes, Suesha. So obviously, India has taken a strong umbrage at the manner in which those ministers got away with the kind of comments they made on Prime Minister Modi and India. And we have communicated it at two levels. One, our High Commissioner in Male, he took it up with the Foreign Ministry there. And today in the morning, the Maldivian envoy in Delhi was called to the Ministry of External Affairs and a formal, strongly worded démarche issued at the manner in which those ministers made those comments. And despite the Maldivian government suspending them and distancing itself, there seems to be more than meets the eye. We have seen the new government of President Muizzu taking a very pronounced anti-India hostile position. And it's almost as if there is some personal animosity and agenda that President Muizzu has against India. His first stop foreign trip was Turkey, and then he went to Dubai. And now tonight he has left for China. And so in a sense, he's at multiple levels sending across a message that he will do everything which is against Indian sensitivities, including, for example, in his first meeting, taking over as president, the first statement was that India should remove all its presence from Maldivian territory. Of course, he wants all the tourists to come because that's where the money is. That's how Maldives survives, with almost 80% of its economy dependent on India. But having said that, I think the Indian side is very clear that they don't want to in any manner get embroiled in the local political dynamics, and that's why the strong démarche focuses on the kind of comments that the three ministers had made. And despite their suspension, they continue to remain part of the government, and that's something which is not being really liked. Having said that, I think this is going to be a long-drawn affair in terms of how to deal with a government which is openly hostile in Mali and comes with a very preconceived idea of how to tackle its relationship with India. And it is obviously not in the larger interest of the Maldivian people. And this has got reflected in comments coming in from other responsible people in Maldives. For example, Abdullah Shahid, who was made president of the United Nations General Assembly for the first time ever for any small nation of the size of Maldives because of India's support last year. He has taken a strong position against Muizzu government, as also outgoing President Ibrahim Soli, as also earlier President and Speaker Mohammad Nasheed. Everyone is really aghast at the manner in which President Muizzu is guiding a very openly hostile anti-India agenda, and he has made it a point to travel everywhere else but not to India. So it's likely after this controversy, he might not be very welcome also insofar as New Delhi is concerned. But having said that, people in Maldives realize that it's India which is first responding to crisis like the one they faced in 2015-16 on fresh water crisis that they faced because the water plants the visa and plants stopped functioning, and there was an outage. So I think there is a lot that is happening, and President Muizu, perhaps a victim of some hubris, taking a very pronounced hostile anti-India position, and the ministers got emboldened by it clearly. And that's why this is strong démarche issued by India to the Maldivian envoy in New Delhi.
Oh, yes, you absolutely put that into context, Abhishek. And let's not forget more than 10,000 Indian tourists who have already cancelled their upcoming visit to Maldives for the insults that were hurled against Prime Minister Modi. Of course, Maldives would have to bear the brunt of it as their economy hugely depends on Indian tourists. But coming back to understanding from you, Abhishek, the specifics of how the MEA is taking this up with the Maldivian envoy in India.
Well, so this is a set procedure, a protocol of issuing a démarche where one senior officer of the Ministry of External Affairs calls the envoy. Like recently, it had happened in the case of Canada also, when the Canadian side was refusing to let many of its diplomats doubling up as information intelligence gathering agents go despite India's request. So a démarche was received to them also. Like in that case, the MEA has done in this case also. And I think a stronger action than just suspension of those ministers is expected. And that's what's been communicated perhaps in whatever diplomatics that MEA mandarins use at the South Bloc. Having said that, Maldives, obviously, in the present government in Maldives, if not the entire Maldives, does not understand that in a time of crisis, it's India which is going to be the first responder and come to their rescue from 1988 when there was a coup to the time in 2015-16 I was mentioning the water crisis. And remember also the fact that Maldives belongs to that group of nations which is going to get submerged if the climate change is happening at the kind of pace it is happening and is not stopped. Global warming, and 80% of Maldives islands are less than a meter above mean sea level, which means that if there is 1 meter rise,
to Professor Madhav Nalapat, who is also with us on the phone line. Very good morning to you, Mr. Nalapat. Again, how Maldives is on the back foot, and for them to really understand that rubbing India the wrong way is going to cost them big, not just in terms of how their economy is hugely dependent on the tourism that they earn from India, but also in the very many ways geopolitically, as Abhishek also mentioned, where India is backing them very strongly. And if they rub us the wrong way, it is at the end of the day their loss.
You're perfectly right on that. Unfortunately, the current president of the Maldives, he basically used a lot of very negative rhetoric about India during his election campaign. And he made it very obvious that as far as he is concerned, China is the big kid on the block, and that he and China are going to be very close to each other. Now, in that, he was reflecting the views of several of the Pakistani military friends who are basically completely linked with China. And the whole drift of his policy was Pakistan will join, and Maldives and Pakistan will join together in becoming satellites of China. At the same time, just as the Pakistan military is promoting a kind of religious extremism, the same thing is happening in the Maldives with this current government. So I'd like to say that when you choose ministers, you have to choose them very carefully. You know their views, you know their biases, and it's very certain that these ministers were chosen after their anti-India bias was well known. And so what they articulated should not have come as a surprise to the Maldivian government. The fact of the matter is, as you correctly said, India is indispensable for the prosperity and security of the Maldives. So a very hard reality check has come on President Muizu, who is basically completely anti-Indian and completely pro-China, pro-Pakistan in his approach. So that reality check has now dawned on him. And therefore, he's doing some cosmetic gestures, such as suspending these 3 junior ministers. What is suspension? You can revoke a suspension in 10 seconds. They have to be dismissed. And he has to condemn this kind of talk. But the fact is, it is Muizu himself who, in his election campaign, launched the most vicious tirades against the most populous democracy in the world. And it is unfortunately the Maldivian people who are going to suffer the consequences of that, because frankly, Maldives has now become under the hold of a government that is completely linked to the Chinese Communist Party and completely linked to radicalism. The Maldives is becoming very unattractive as a tourist destination. And without tourism, where is the Maldivian economy?
Absolutely. Mr. Nalapata, I want to thank you for speaking to the public this morning and sharing your views on this matter. Abhishek, also for getting us all the very latest as we continue to keep our viewers ahead on this story.